So I see myself as a more neoclassical approach, and that approach is basically just the old school supply and demand approach. That's basically what it revolves upon. The production and the pricings and the managing of incomes all goes down to the supply and demand of the product. Because of this, the theory is that any smart capitalist can make. There's no limit to how much money you can make, depending on supply and the demand of a product. So it's a very broad way of thinking, but I believe it's a superior way of thinking just because that is kind of how things work. The demand for things is what makes people buy it and what makes things succeed. A common example of this is just, like designer goods and designer brands, whereas for some reason, the quality and the pricing and all of the things that go into making these things isn't very high, but the demand is extremely high for some reason, which, it works out for those who are in that industry with like designer clothes and streetwear and stuff like that. That's just a very basic example, but it's the most common, I feel like, because for some reason, the demand for these things is so insane that these prices can be absurd. The prices for designer things are, over 100% of regular clothes. A regular t-shirt can be $30, a designer t-shirt's $3,000. So, it's absurd numbers, but the demand is there, so people keep selling it, and it works. And that whole industry is literally driven by supply and demand. So I feel that this is more my type of approach, just because it really depends on what you're selling. I'm doing real estate. That's what I went to school for. The demand for real estate will always be there. People will always need houses. And the supply of houses will never really go over the demand because people are always going to need them. And eventually, in certain cities, you start running out of space, so then the demand gets even higher because you got to get what you can. So I feel like this approach pertains to me the most, and I feel like, the other approaches, the ecological approach and the other one, they all have their own good methods, but I believe in this world, if you can catch the right demand, you'll be the most successful.